Welcome, come one, come all, to another episode of your favorite podcast. This is Woodworking is Bullshit. I'm your host, Paul Jasper, scientist by day, woodworker by night. And I have my favorite co-host in the chair, Eric Curtis, fine furniture maker and content creator. Woo! Well, folks, today we have another guest. I'm very excited about this guest because we think this guest, and Eric, I'll let you introduce the guest in a second. This guest, we think, can speak to today's topic. All right. And I'll start with the topic, and then we can talk about why we think the guest is so appropriate for this topic. So today's topic is creativity within limitations. And let me say why we think that's a good topic. Because every maker, whether you're a woodworker, a painter, a ceramic artist, a musician, whatever you happen to be, has limitations put on you. Limitations of time, limitations on form, limitations on budget, right? And some of us could see those limitations, say, oh, that really hurts my creativity. Like, I want to be just way more creative than that. And that's actually hampering my ability to like create. And another person might say, you know what? Those confines actually help me with limitations, because if you look at a blank piece of paper, it's too like the possibilities are truly endless when you're looking at a white sheet of paper, and that's very intimidating. And like, where do I start? So we think to have a talk about creativity within limitations is a great topic and totally applicable to almost every type of artist. And today, Eric, our artist today, has learned to craft within limitations. That's for sure.
I mean, they're one of my favorite Brits, I think. When I first stumbled upon their work, they clearly know what they're doing in the craft. And then I saw their videos and I was like, fuck, I hate it when somebody is like, we're on the same level from the craft perspective, but they're so much better than me from like a content creation perspective. That really irritates me quite a bit. And she's just so goddamn charming. And then I've had the pleasure of spending time with her in person a couple of times now. And like, even better in real life, just the quirkiness, the weirdness, the hilarious. It's coming up daisies. And so our friend today is, of course, Daisy Tempest.
Oh, that was
how you doing, buddy?
A hell of an intro. I'm really good. I'm really good. I hope I'm not too quirky and weird.
I mean,
but
that's
you
your
seem
charm
to like
right there.
it, so that's
good. That's the charm. Okay, all right. Listen. All the bullshit aside, all the accolades aside. First things first. You broke your coccyx?
I think the way he said that.
Eric, that's a hell of a start.
That's an accusation.
Look, I have not had a confirmation or I cannot confirm that I have broken my coccyx. However, after doing some research on ChatGPT, I think I can safely say it is very likely that that's what I've done.
Hold on. We have to hear why.
But
also, did you just say you were doing medical research on ChatGPT?
Oh yeah,
she did.
What the fuck is happening?
Best way. I'm so sorry, Paul, but it is an excellent place to start. I say to it, I'm just like, because with ChatGPT, I'm into it because my boyfriend's into it, and he talks to it like a friend, but a friend that he treats really badly. So he'll say some really quite brutal things, like, "You did a really bad job of that," and then the ChatGPT will just like apologize, and there's no accountability from the ChatGPT. Anyway, I was outraged. I was like, red flags everywhere. Like, this is, how someone says when you meet a man, look at how they treat their mum. I'm just like, look at how they chat their robot, how they treat their robot. Anyway, moving on. Then I became obsessed with it, and now I treat mine quite badly too. So I don't know what that says about me.
I feel like that's more just the British way than anything else.
Possibly. Well, he's Australian. So
Okay, all right. So let's start a square
Sorry,
one.
Okay, wait.
There's so many things happening
What
right
the
now.
fuck? Like, first of all, let's just start by saying what the fuck. Okay, like we're talking about like creativity and limitations and Daisy, and then we're right on the broken coccyx.
Daisy's holed up in bed right now, so she looks
in
like
bed,
either
I'm so
she's in a
sorry.
hospital or she's just narcoleptic. So I wanted to clarify for
Ridiculous.
folks watching.
Thank
that,
you. Basically, yeah. Well, yeah. So this whole everything is covered by one story. So first of all, I have Tourette syndrome, right? So it's the swearing condition. I don't. That actually is called coprolalia or something. That is different. A different part of Tourette's. Like I don't swear. My dad does. My dad's got it very severely. But I manifest by hopping. Like I just hop everywhere. It's so weird.
Dude, honestly, the first time we ever met, we were going into the shop and we get in the elevator and she just starts hopping on one leg and I was like, okay, that's a vibe, I guess. And then she kept doing it down the hall and then she was like, oh, I have Tourette's, and I was like, oh, okay. All right.
Eric, did you follow suit and start hopping too?
Yeah. I
guess this is what we're
Eric
doing.
Followed suit, but it keeps one's physique in good shape. I will say
That's fair.
But so anyway, I was normally I'm very gifted at not hurting myself after doing all this hopping. However, this morning I was not so fortunate, and I did hop on a towel, and it slid from underneath, and I fell straight on my ass. And that is when the offending suspected break happened, because I have not been able to be free of pain.
I'm almost a little disappointed because I had the mental image, like I was texting you, I had the mental image of you like a fainting goat, like the Tourette's just hit and you just like collapse backwards.
So I do have one tic that kind of is like that. Like it used to be a lot worse, but I'll be mid-sentence and then the tic will come in and I'll just be like, and then I'll do like my boyfriend calls it Dracula hands. Like so I'll start like this and then I'll do this. So it's just like
it's amazing.
That's kind of fainting goatee, I think.
Wait, Daisy!
I love that you just like
It's so it happens when I'm driving. Like I'll just take my hands off the wheel, and my boyfriend's like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, put your hands back on the wheel, Dracula." So,
it's amazing.
All right. Does it get worse when you drink? Because I want to have. Let's have some drinks and do Dracula hands together.
Oh god, I think it does get a bit worse when I have a drink. Like definitely the hopping, but it's because when I hop, it's because I'm excited or stressed or like feeling some strong emotion. It just brings it out. So at the moment, I am relocating to Australia, as I said. So there's stuff all over my flat, and the offending towel was just in the way. It was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And because I'm so stressed with not stressed with the move, but I'm organizing a lot. Trying to cram in seeing friends last minute before I go and that kind of thing as well. So I guess it just got a bit out of hand this morning.
All right. So let's put a cliffhanger right there, because I like, as your friend, I haven't heard the whole story and the reason why you're moving to Australia. I know it's for a boy, which we're going to have a real stern conversation about that. But
after show?
Here's what I'll say. Ooh, that could be a good after show seg. I want to hear the story front to back, with some brevity, about how you became a luthier, and then like that can lead us up to the point of, and now I'm moving to Australia to be a bad bitch over on a new continent. Yes, Paul.
Before Daisy starts her story, can I say, because we didn't say this yet, Daisy is an exceptionally fine guitar maker. Okay, we hadn't said that. We just said her name's Daisy and she's got Tourette's and she broke her ass.
It was such a long pause after fine. I didn't know where you were going to go with that.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm glad you hit guitar maker.
Oh no. So, and Daisy's going to tell us all about like how she got into it, but absolutely the finest guitars made literally from scratch, the ground up, every bit, which is impressive as hell. So
No,
Daisy,
she is. She's brilliant. Just for folks who don't know, like my thing when I follow people on the internet is like you can be good at content and like that's cool. Like I'll watch you do a thing, but I'm not gonna like reach out and try to be friends with you. I immediately DM'd Daisy and I was like, can we be friends, please? Because you like your level of craft is phenomenal. And then the storytelling aspect along with the content is just fun. So
mate.
that said,
So nice.
your qualifications put there. How did you become a bad bitch?
Okay, so one is born, not made.
It's not. One does not become a bad bitch. It's just innate.
One arrives as a bad bitch. No, so I come from a very creative family, I guess. So for me, that was kind of the normal thing. My mum is like very creative lady to the point where she is quite mad, in a good way, but she is like a bit unhinged with her creativity. Like it wakes up, creates, goes to sleep. Like it's relentless. She's actually a cartoonist by trade and also a sculptor. So just like creating, like cartoonists are, I always think, some of the most creative people because you've got to come up with a different idea every day. And not only have you got to do that, but you have to make it funny, which, you know, again, going back to Chat GPT that we were talking about earlier, like you tell a Chat GPT to do something that people will find funny and they can't do it. It's like such a skill. So anyway, I grew up watching her be really good at her job, and my dad was a musician. So I had, or is a musician, he's not dead. So he was doing a lot of music stuff around then. I was like, the one thing I was actually quite good at as a kid was playing the piano and picking up musical instruments, and I just always had a bit of a way with them. So I would do that, and that's obviously a form of creativity in itself. I used to compose and make up things, and I used to love that. And the thing about music as well is that, unlike woodworking or any kind of form of physical art, you can, like, part of the experience is the process of actually playing it. It's like you don't have a finished thing at the end. You can have a song, but the joy in creating is as it happens. Which I suppose is like with anything, but with woodworking, I do find a lot of satisfaction seeing the end product, and I'm quite sick of it when it's done. And I guess it is about the process, but yeah, it's sort of, with music, it's not permanent. You can change it, and it won't affect what you've already made and that kind of thing. So I love that, and so that's what I was naturally very good at. And so when I decided to take up woodworking, which happened because I can't sit still at the best of times, like having Tourette's obviously doesn't help with that, but I did an English literature degree, and it became very apparent that I wasn't interested. All my friends were going to the library and sitting down, and I started making dresses and sold a couple of those, and I just like loved using my hands, and I was like, all right, let's give this a go. I went to work on a film set making costumes, and then I was using like natural materials, so like we were making dresses out of Canadian maple leaves, actually, that were imported in. And yeah, I absolutely loved it, and I kind of just decided that I wanted to do woodwork because I was trying to figure out how I could do something music related as well. And then I was like, why don't I be a guitar maker? And I literally came up with the idea just completely randomly. I was like, I bet there are guitar makers. Oh, actually, no, sorry. I said I initially wanted to be a piano maker because I played the piano. And I looked at Steinway, and I was like, I can't bring anything to this. Like, they have what I would want to do as a brand. And I couldn't see a guitar company that had anything similar. And I was like, I bet that I could do that. And also guitars are smaller. I can see,
Wait, so, I mean, first of all, I think anybody who has musicality or music experience and then gets into woodworking, kind of, like I had the same dream of like, I want to make a piano one day. So I feel like that's a common dream, but it sounds like what you're saying is you saw Steinway succeeding in the industry and thought, well, I can't do any better than that, but I don't see anybody making guitars at that level. So what was it that you saw in Steinway that you saw was lacking in the guitar world?
Well, I just never heard of like fancy guitars. Like, I didn't know that you could, I mean, there's Martin and Gibson, and then like Fender, and then I couldn't think of anyone else, and none of them were sexy anymore. Like, they're not sorry, everyone at Martin, all these companies, but there wasn't anything that had kind of, that was sexy. Like a girl like me walked into a, guitar shop. I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, no, I'll get this brand. Like, there just wasn't anything that was also particularly what I would consider to be like very smart or very like what somebody with a lot of money would buy for their living room. Like, there wasn't with a Steinway, you buy a Steinway. Yeah. And I just thought that's kind of what I want to do. Like, I kind of want to, and I feel like being British, I have this instilled kind of sense of, I like the idea of creating a brand that is quite smart and British and like a bit up itself, but like hopefully not too up itself, but you know what I mean? Like a little bit, posh, I guess. So I kind of thought that was a good idea, and I think
That's
I'm good
Londoner
at that.
in you. I feel like there's a lot of countryside English folk who might not feel that same way.
Oh, maybe you're so right.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's why I decided to do it. And I've always been a very, again, I think I got this from my parents, but I've always been taught that failure is not a bad thing, which I really credit my parents with, because I wasn't afraid of failure. Like, I thought I'd try it, and then if I liked it, I'd stick with it, or at least I had to stick with it. And then if I failed, that's fine. I probably would. I was like, I probably will fail. It's a bit random, and it's going to be hard work. I didn't realize it was going to be quite so hard to learn how to make guitars.
Well, it's learning how to make a guitar and then building a brand in a successful business are two different things, right? So you went and had an apprenticeship, yeah?
Yes.
And learned how to learned the actual craft that way.
Yes, I went to I went and had a one-on-one furniture course, and then I basically, that was like a really short course. It was only a week or something, and then, because obviously training in furniture is expensive, so I could only do a week, and then after that I offered to work for free, and then I just worked as a waitress in the evenings, and that person took me on, and I was there for about maybe 3 years, something like that, and then I bailed because it was getting a bit problematic in terms of my expectations versus his expectations.
Yeah.
And I felt a little bit, as a lot of people experience in apprenticeships, I felt a little bit used, I suppose. And he didn't want me to leave because, it was a really sweet deal, and he was getting a lot more business, because he basically put me in charge of marketing and wasn't teaching me how to make guitars anymore, because that was how he was getting more business. And so I was just like, see you later. And then I through my work with him, another guitar maker had seen me work with him, was just like, hey, I think you're good at this marketing thing. I will actually teach you how to make guitars, if you'll help me out with marketing like one day a week, and then I'll actually like teach you properly. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah. And then that was an amazing experience. Her name's Rosie.
Oh, that's good.
She makes guitars here in the UK, and she's amazing. Like, she was really good for me, and she kind of built
How
back.
long were you over there?
A year, something like that. Not very long.
Okay.
Yeah. And then from then on, I obviously still had a lot more learning to do, I felt. So I won an award which got me a free studio space in London for a year, which was amazing.
Amazing.
It was. And I had this client who bought a guitar up front, to be made at a later date, but he was like, go get yourself set up. Here's some money for machines. Just make me the guitar when you're ready. It was amazing. So I went and set myself up with that. I took a few more deposits, and then just basically trained myself, just making a bunch of mistakes that I couldn't have made when a mentor's there, because I think that's important when you're on your own for the first time. It's the little things that you don't realize that you depended on your mentor for.
Yeah.
So I made so many mistakes. I learned a lot, and then I started building through my order books. So yeah, and social media helped with that. Yeah.
So just curiosity, are you a guitar player as well as a piano player?
I can play guitar, but I wouldn't call myself a guitar player. You know,
Okay.
like I think, but it is might be because of the industry I'm in. Everyone's just on another level, so I do see that as like that's a guitar player. So yeah, sure, I can play chords and I can finger pick and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought of that because last night I went to see, I guess, one of the finest acoustic guitar players in the world, Mike Dawes.
Yeah, he's a mate.
I saw him. Oh, you're friends with him?
Yeah, he's my
fucking
mate.
know everybody. Like, you can bring up the most random people. She's like, oh yeah, we grew up together.
Well, he apparently was voted the finest acoustic guitar player in the world 2 years in a row.
That's
and I
wild.
saw him last night, and he was in my town in Massachusetts. And,
amazing.
And holy shit.
Was he playing a Tempest guitar or what?
I don't have a
talking to with this motherfucker.
But I just didn't even know a guitar could be used in so many creative ways. But anyway, that's not here nor there. So when you got into guitar making, actually, I think about you. You're obviously a young a woman in a much more traditional, like probably male-dominated field. And not only that it's male-dominated, but a very traditional field, right? And being young, I think often has challenges getting into a very traditional field. Did you feel like breaking into that field was particularly difficult because it was so traditional and so embedded?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I don't want to be negative, but I think in my first apprenticeship, the thing that made me so, I guess if there was any anger left, it might be because of this, but I wasn't allowed to be excited by anything, and if I was, I would be shamed. So like when I started, I think there was a moment where he was putting up a shelf, right? Objectively, like not that impressive, but to me, it was so emotional. I was like, oh my god, I can put up shelves. Like maybe I can put up shelves, because especially as a young woman, we're sort of told that we can't do things like handyman stuff, handyman in the name,
Right, it's already
excludes
sexist.
us.
Yeah.
So, after that, he was just like, I can't possibly take you seriously, if you get excited about, a shelf, which, probably fair enough. Like I say fair enough. I don't think it's
like,
no,
what the
that's
fuck
not
is
fair.
that? Yeah.
That's not fair enough at all. Like the joy of that first discovery, whether it's putting up a shelf or cutting your first dovetail or whatever, the joy of discovery is not something to take away from someone.
And why take on apprentices and students if you're not going to take a part of that joy with them?
Yeah, you
want to feel that joy share in that joy with them, however insignificant or naive you might think it is based on your fucking cynical ass self. I think it's awesome to see that level of excitement.
Luckily, I did. Woo! I'm gonna move. We'll see what that happens.
Oh, how's the ass bone?
There we go. The ass is fine. Excellent. Well cushioned. Don't worry.
That's it. Can we clip that soundbite and we can use that in later episodes?
She just said she had a fine ass, which is a little it's a little self-promoting if I'm being honest.
We're gonna build a soundboard.
Oh my god, you guys!
My ass is so fine.
You got done me now. Oh my god. But yeah, no. So I think there's almost a level of to be young and to be a craftsperson. I just noticed in him, and I've noticed it in other people as well, perhaps not as firsthand, but it's like there's almost some kind of weird thing about older craftspeople who've been doing it for years, where they're just like, oh, you don't know anything. This isn't impressive. Like,
right.
Look, which, I think can be used in a positive way, just like if you use it the right way. But that was the biggest thing that I was just so like, these people weren't amazed by anything anymore, which made me very sad. And it's something that I've never lost because I still learn things every day. And I think if I ever lose that, it will be, maybe I'll become, wise.
Well, what's the point of doing anything if you're just going to be old and crotchety and not excited about anything?
Yeah. Passion and excitement about craft and art is infectious, and you want to be around people who make you feel excited. Right?
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
so Daisy, it sounds like, and I expected this to be the answer. Like, there's kind of an old boys club or an old, an old club that sort of is gatekeeping on these more traditional art forms. How do you break into that and make yourself like a presence and get accepted as a fine luthier among such a gatekeeping with so much inertia and stagnation?
Yeah, I don't think I am accepted. I will say that. I think there's a lot of people out there who wouldn't say that I'm a luthier, which is an
Interesting. What
interesting.
would they call you?
Well, just a content creator or an influencer. I get
Yeah,
that a
there
lot.
it is. I get
And
that a
I'm
lot
like,
too.
yeah, right. And it's like,
Yeah.
but you have to, in order to influence the thing that you're doing, you have to get good at it, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
to some extent, at least. Like, I built a guitar. That definition is a luthier. So there's a lot of that, and that will always happen. And I kind of just let them yap. Like, I don't care, because I know that I'm good at my job, and that to me is the most important thing. If there was a period where I didn't feel good at my job because I wasn't yet, and like I don't, I'll continue to get better at my job, but I think that was a really hard time because that was that was difficult to not feel accepted when I saw that stuff online. But to be honest, because I know I'm good, I don't. It doesn't really affect me. And I
That's
don't,
interesting.
I
Because
don't really need
I've
them for any reason. Like they're colleagues, and the ones that matter don't, like, they're great. The colleagues that I like, my old mentor Rosie, she's great. I've got friends like you guys who are in a slightly different field. Like, I don't need to seek acceptance from people who are just, for whatever reason, not accepting me.
Yeah, it is interesting to hear that I mean, and unsurprisingly, that mentality spans into the more traditional craft forms, like being a luthier and whatnot. I've faced, and this is a conversation Larissa and I have had, an endless number of times. But I feel the exact same way. It's the furniture community that I hold so dear, that I love. And so many of them are just like, well, he's just a content creator. And it's
so
and what's
annoying.
interesting to me though is like the world of content creation and the community in this space is so welcoming. Like anybody can come be a part of it. There's so little gatekeeping. And then the only two people who are gatekeeping in the furniture world, and it sounds like what you've said is similar in the guitar making world, are either the people who are super successful in like the gallery spaces who don't want other people encroaching on their work, or people who haven't made it and are struggling artists and are bitter at content creators for finding a way to make a living making things.
You're so right.
I think the reason that there's this bias against not taking content creators seriously is because there's a lot of them who are not excellent at what they do.
Sure.
They're excellent at making videos and being provocative and thumbnailing, but they're not great at what they do. You two are an absolute exception, but there's a lot of shit.
But I mean, that's also true in the craft world,
Yeah,
in the museum world, in the gallery world.
It's true,
like,
but
it exists everywhere. The world is about connections. It's not about how good you make shit.
No. The gallery is select.
The gallery is a political entity.
It is,
wherein the people who know the right people can get into that gallery, regardless of how good their work is.
That may be true, but the contents are highly selected, whereas anyone can have a YouTube channel. Anyone.
Sure, that's fair.
Okay,
that's fair.
I know it's fair. That's why I said it, bitch. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing. All right,
watching you two go off at each other, just like
no. We love fucking around. So, Daisy, did social media change the game for you then? Was that like your way into this without all the gatekeeping and traditional paths?
No, I mean, it made me. It was a very deliberate move because I needed to get orders, right? So how do you get orders? You do marketing, and I couldn't afford to pay to have magazines cover me or whatever. I did get some press coverage but I've never ever paid for marketing. Like, I don't think it's a smart move. Just, with the resources we have, like on social media and stuff, like I may as well just do it. So I started doing that. And also I just really love it. Like, I love sharing
you're
my
a good
craft. I
storyteller.
love
You really are.
what I do. It's like part of the creative part of the job that I absolutely love, because as per the topic, I do feel limited by the tradition of the craft, because there's only so much you can do to a guitar to make it not a guitar anymore.
That is like the best segue into the next part of this. I mean, I couldn't have asked for you to set that up better. So, Daisy, please tell us, what are, this is guitar making is a very traditional art form. What are, like, maybe just set the stage. Is there room for creativity within that? How much room is there? And how do you go about trying to add creativity? Or is it all about the creativity of the storytelling? Or is it on the instrument? Can you kind of set the stage for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it on the head when you said this creativity within storytelling is something that I really get a lot of value and pleasure from. So the idea of, even before I learned how to make guitars, I was already planning how I was going to enrich my client's experience more through the story of the instrument. So be that in materials, be that in filming the build, be that in taking photos. It was all something that was almost more important to me than the actual finished instrument, because you get good at building guitars and then your work's not done, but you do have a product you can sell. So how do you distinguish yourself from other craftspeople who can make a guitar which is as good? Like, to me, it's in the extra stuff that not everyone has thought of or can do, or you know have the marketing skills to do, perhaps, or the incentive if they don't want to engage with that. So that's kind of what keeps me showing up to work every day, as opposed to the actual work. But I do love the actual work as well.
So it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like what you're saying is, look, guitars are limited. Like, a guitar has 6 strings. The fret is a certain length. It has a certain body shape if you're making acoustics, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some leeway in the visuals, but not that much. Where you're taking the leeway is in the storytelling of the piece itself.
Yeah, I'm not massively interested in altering the shape or size of the acoustic guitar and just doing art,
Why?
doing that for that sake.
Why?
Why am I not? Because it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't interest me.
Why?
Because
this is what I deal with every fucking episode. It's just why.
Like, yeah, I mean, you say it with such confidence, but you must have a rationale behind that.
Well, why do I? Well, I just don't think that. So I'm not a very scientific person, unlike the likes of you. I'm not a revolutionist when it comes to like pushing boundaries of materials.
I see.
It's just not in my wheelhouse. What I am good at is pushing. I think, yeah, what I am good at is pushing the other elements that I feel more confident with, like the storytelling, like the how to make. So I filmed an entire build because it was something that I wanted to do, but my client was down for it, and it happened to be like the best performing video that I've done on YouTube. So it's kind of, every time I do things that I want to do, I feel like I'm the best at doing them, and therefore they go down well, right?
So Daisy, that falls under the guise of like inspired work is the best work, and you were inspired,
I think so.
right, to make that video.
It's also like the most natural way that you can do a thing is you're like, listen, I know what I want to do, and so it's going to be unique because my hand only moves a certain way, my eye sees it a certain way, and if I'm trying to copy somebody else or do something different for the sake of doing something different, it's probably going to be shit. So it like, did the marketing, like, did you develop this storytelling habit and then social media was a vehicle to tell that story? Or did you see social media as a marketing vehicle and then develop the ability to tell a good story because that's how you knew you needed to market your business?
It's a good question. I think it was fortuitously something that I wanted to document anyway, because I like taking photographs, right? So I started photographing what I was learning in the day during my first apprenticeship and then posting on social media. And why I did that might have been a marketing move. I don't think it was at the time. I think it became one when I saw that it was working and it was actually tangibly getting me orders. That then it became like, oh, okay, so I actually, this is great that I'm enjoying this, but I should really look at this as like a serious marketing vehicle here, because when you get 2 orders off Instagram, that's a lot of work. So yeah.
So for me personally, like I think about, and Eric, feel free to give your experience too. When I think about a guitar, let's just say the way my brain works, and it's very different. And Daisy, this is why I was holding your feet to the fire there. It wasn't to be a dick or anything. It was just like,
it was a little bit to be a dick. Don't let him lie.
I'm a little bit of a dick, just naturally speaking, but no, because I feel like there's no wrong question here. Like I always live to drill down into like people's thinking. And for me, the minute I think about creativity with a guitar or creativity in some very traditional form, the first thing I think about is like, okay, how do we know that shape, it gives the best resonance? Like as a scientist, you don't just accept what you're told. You can't be a scientist if you just fucking listen to other people, what they tell you, because so much of it's bunk. And so like, I would say, how do we know that shape is the best? Have we studied other shapes? I'm sure they have. I know there's some, but what if we could come up with an entirely new shape? How do they know spruce, it gives the best resonance? I know you hold it and you tap it and it resonates, but have we tried like 50, 100 different woods and measured the resonance frequency of maybe more non-traditional woods? And could we somehow, turn guitar making, flip it on its head, because we're thinking so differently and we can come up with something absolutely game changing? That's kind of where my head's at.
I'm gonna push back on that before Daisy does, because my question immediately is, does the science fucking matter in an art form like music? Well, so music is an art. It's a vibe. It's a feeling. It's an emotion, right?
Yes.
And so figuring out all these different like measurements and like what the thickness of this and like, does it fucking matter if it's if it's 5% more, or does it matter that the overall package of the instrument the music being played feels a certain way?
I hear what you're saying. I do. I hear you. But you also don't want to buy this guitar or play a guitar that sounds like a little whiny bitch because it doesn't resonate.
Well, sure. But we've been making guitars for like, I don't know, 1,000 years. We've been
they've been making them the fucking same way the whole time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. These things have been refined over time.
Yeah, but refined in
don't over science the art.
Refined in one particular way. That doesn't mean there's other avenues waiting for us that could blow things wide open. That's always fair. What I think. I'm just like, maybe we've missed something huge here, but we could only get there through a lot of, trial and error and experimentation. But that doesn't turn you on, Daisy. And I get that. Like, I accept that. Like, it's a certain brain type and a certain way of thinking that gravitates towards that versus storytelling, because someone who's like, I'm going to measure the resonance frequency of these 50 different woods and compare them and then try to see if it changes the tonality is probably not going to be the greatest storyteller, to be quite honest.
They're probably not going to be the greatest guitarist either. They're spending all their time doing science shit and not playing the goddamn guitar.
Don't hate. All right.
Oh my God,
so I have
you are such a nerd.
hey. Oh my God. All right.
Let's get that sound clip too.
I've got to, my ass is great.
You go and do it. You go and do it, man. Like, knock your socks off. I am not going to be the gal to sit there with a fucking microphone measuring the resonant frequencies of 50 different timbres when I'm pretty damn sure my guitars sound real good as they are, and I'm happy with that. Like,
I feel you.
Amazing.
You go nuts.
One of the things that I've experienced so I was asked to work on a viola with Christopher Jacoby, who's an excellent violin viola luthier that I'm close friends with. He asked me, can we do a viola together? And what he meant is he'll make it and I'll decorate it with pyrography. So I do a lot of hand done pyrography and shading. And the question came up, and this is sort of what I want to ask you. The question came up is like, how much can you deviate from the norm? How much is okay? Because if it goes totally batshit crazy, no one's going to want to buy it, or very few people want to buy it. Or think about it this way. If you make a viola that is so drastically different visually, is someone going to want to be in an orchestra and have that sticking out like a sore thumb in the middle of a tucked in orchestra where all the instruments are, look this? So like, sticking out is not always a great thing. And so the question became like, how much can you buck convention? How much can you, be creative, quote unquote, within a traditional art form without getting into trouble? And so the question that I want to ask you is like, how much do you think you could change a guitar and still sell it? Or how would changing a form affect price point?
I think that people don't buy my guitars because they're objectively better than any other luthier. I think they buy them because they're by me. So I do believe that if I did whatever I wanted, people would still buy them because I've created a brand, and that's the kind of artist I want to be. It's like people who want to play in an orchestra as a functional thing, they don't come to me, and that's not who I pretend to be. Just like, if you're buying a car and you just need it for getting around the city, you buy a hatchback. But if you want to, like, become part of a brand and become part of a story and have a better service, you buy a Bentley, right? So I think it's a very like statement piece driven purchase, like, to buy something that deviates from the norm. So yeah, it probably would be fine to deviate because people, yeah, I created my brand to be one-off pieces, right? I don't batch produce anything, and that just seems to be the people who buy from me always want my guitar over someone else's guitar because they like the way that I tell the stories,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes me sound like I'm bigging myself out. I'm not. I'm just like trying to
get
to the bottom of like the truth, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. People come to you because they appreciate the way that you approach the work, and they, who the fuck is calling me in the middle of a podcast, ruining this
Sarah.
sound? My apologies, but yeah, they want to support you. They want to own a piece made by you. They want to have that relationship not only with the object itself, but with the maker of the object. They know how much care and thought and all of those things go into the. And I'm looking at your portfolio right now on your website, which, by the way, your website is so fucking good, and it makes me realize mine is trash.
That's
I don't think
good.
I've updated my website since like 2015, so you're doing better than me.
I haven't updated mine for a long time. Don't worry. So I really need to get on that.
I'm looking at your work and coming to this idea of like you're not varying too far off the beaten path. You're not straying into something wild and new. There's something about it that's very clearly like handmade, and like there's a softness, a subtleness to it that's really, really lovely. And I don't know enough about the craft of making guitars to understand if that's just like there's something about the shape that's ever so slightly different. There's like it has a quality to it that feels very handmade to me, but that could also just because you take really good fucking pictures. So I don't like what is the thing. And I think we have this in common. This is what I'm getting to is like my goal, and I think my job as a designer when I'm making a piece is to get all of the kind of excess, all of the big loud gaudy shit out of the way and kind of get to the core of what the thing is and do that as simply as possible. Let the material have a voice, let the form have a voice, and then I'm kind of the third hand of the thing. And it feels like you're doing that same thing.
God, that's beautiful.
But what is your approach in that way? Does that make sense, or am I just putting words in your mouth?
No, not at all. I think you explained that beautifully. I wouldn't say I'd done that consciously, but what I designed my shape to be was different from. So if you know guitars, you'll know that my shape is different. Some people find
it's got like a flatter
nice.
top to it.
Yeah, some people find it nice. Some people absolutely hate it. The more you look at it, the more your eyes get used to it. That's why it's so confusing for someone to look at it who knows guitars, because it is different. I think that's important as well. For me and my body shape and just my own comfort, I designed it around, that and just something that I'd want to play, because I figured that if there's someone who wants to play it, like if I feel like it's comfortable, someone else will. And in terms of deviation from the norm in terms of materials, so I like materials to speak as well. Like I like them to have the biggest voice, literally and aesthetically. And I think the way that I initially did that, or to be a bit different from the norm, was I inlay paper
I saw
into
that.
the around the rosette, and it's wood, right? But
Mm.
I've sort of brought in other materials like resin and paper and copper around the edges and stuff. And the reason behind that is because I was looking again to tell a story about the maker, which is me, and I studied English literature, and books were like a huge love of mine, not necessarily reading them, but just being around books. I really love them. I mean, who doesn't? And that was a way to kind of get my own identity in there while also doing something maybe a little bit different and just something that's kind of interesting. So that's how
Okay.
I've deviated a bit, I suppose.
So you said earlier in the conversation that you're not interested in fucking around with forms and changing things, and yet you're like, not only have I changed the form, but also I've introduced non-traditional materials.
I would say
Eric, thank you for calling her out on that, because I was thinking the same fucking thing.
Look, I have dabbled in pushing the boundaries. You see some people who are guitar makers and they are going nuts and they are pushing and pushing. I think I'm like 10% of that spectrum.
But that's what I was about to say, is that 10%, right? Like, you have the thing, in living within that 90% means you can still be really exceptional at your craft. But it's the 5 to 10% that makes it your own voice. And that's very clearly what you've done.
Well, because she's done it in a way that you can see. I've talked to chair makers, a lot of Windsor chair makers, who are like, you can probably tell the rake and splay on this one spindle. it's 2 degrees more to the left and 1 degree back, and it changes everything.
This is a David Douillard. You can tell.
No, it's not David Douillard. I love David Douillard. Fuck you, Eric.
I'm not picking on David. It was just the only chair maker I could think of.
But like, these chair makers make these minuscule adjustments, and they think it's earth shattering. I tell you what,
the absolute nerd over here.
I can't see a goddamn bit of difference between a 1 degree angle and a 2 degree angle. So
what would the science say? I don't know. Has anybody done testing to find out if that 2 degree angle would change the way it sits? That's what I want.
Well, I guess we have to figure out how to have an empirical measure of comfort while sitting first, and we have to validate that measure. Then we can do the experiment, Eric.
Oh Christ.
Oh my God.
All right, so we've established that Daisy's a liar when it comes to her saying that
I'm not
she doesn't change anything.
Paul's
I'm not interested in that.
Eric's a dick.
Eric, can you answer the question though? I this is one I've really thought a lot about. Does bucking convention, does that like put you in danger of having it to decrease your price point because no one wants something that bucks convention on an already optimized product? Or does bucking convention maybe open it up to even a higher price point?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's a high risk, high reward situation. I think the overwhelming majority of people who buck convention do so when they're younger and they're not good and end up making shit. And but 1 or 2 of them catch fire, and so you get the folks who become known for bucking convention, but then they're also trapped in a losing game, right? Like it's I don't know the name of the phenomenon, but the phenomenon of you stop growing and maturing as a person the moment you become famous. I think that's similar to like you get locked into this mindset the moment you become successful. And so these people who become successful by bucking trends and doing outlandish shit then have to constantly one up themselves for the rest of their career. Because you can't go from like, you can't start as Damien Hirst and then, become like a traditional painter. Like you just have to keep fucking bedazzling skulls and dipping sharks in chloroform. Nope, that's not right. Fluoride? I don't know. Whatever the fuck you preserved a shark in.
Formaldehyde?
Yeah, there it is. We got there. So, yeah, I think there's the once in a blue moon thing that happens where you develop a name quicker because you're doing some outlandish shit. And so then your price point increases. But I think the overwhelming majority of the time, it's the people who figure out how to excel within the confines of the craft they've chosen, and then find their 5 to 10% that establishes, their lane.
Okay, so for the viola, I actually have the answer of what happened. So I would say we were bigger than 5 or 10%. Chris like changed, like it wasn't a scroll, it was a shield on top instead of the traditional scroll. It was a shield, and there was like a crazy ass flower I put on the shield. Like what? Right? And there's like vining and all this like around the ribs of the viola, all this crazy floral, and down the back, a twisting thing straight down the back. And it was pretty, I'd say that's more than 10%. That's pretty out there.
That's like 35, 40.
Wait, so I want to tell you what happened. So we were, Chris and I were all excited that it was going to fucking sell, baby, sell, right? Because he's a very good luthier. Like his instruments go for a lot of money, and they do well. Well, this one sat for 2 years.
Okay. Right.
And I think we realized like it's going to take the right person to see that and be like, that's for me. And now what happened? So we had to sell it at a reduced price. We didn't get the normal price, but it did find its person. Took 2 years. But funny enough, once that sold, someone saw it and was like, I want one like that, but just different. Like, I want that. And so now we have an order for a second. So that was very unexpected. So I'm still kind of not here nor there on the risk taking.
So is that though, like, I think bold risk taking can happen in a one-off vehicle, but when you're building like a guitar brand,
good point.
Like that's a different thing. You might sell one or two, but selling 30, 40, 50.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah, maybe the risk taking is an exploratory, occasional thing you do while you play it safe, right? Because you don't want to bet the farm on an experimental idea.
Well, and I think the best designers and craftspeople that I know, at least, tend to like do these one-off projects or speculative projects that are just playthings where they can break all the rules, and then they take components of that and they introduce it into their work, little by little.
Yeah, great point. But Eric, I think one of the things that disappoints me is I think so many people in traditional art forms just become complacent and don't even ask.
Sure.
Like, what are the opportunities? I'm just, you start looking through the world through a shrunk lens, right? And all you can see is what's in that tiny little lens after a while, once you're in a field long enough. But part of me is sad that like we can't keep that sort of broad, more open-minded, more quote unquote crazy thinking. I think too often we become complacent to see the world through it.
Is that the artist versus the business person mindset?
Probably.
And those are just two different states of being.
Yeah, that's true.
I think craftsmen, like the mentality of being a craftsperson, I find can be like that because we know there are things which cannot be challenged. For example, having sharp tools, right, is always going to be the best option. So I think you're sort of trained out of being too creative if you're doing woodworking, particularly because some things are just how they are. And
some of those things are that way for a reason, right? Like when you were talking about how far you can push a design, one of my first thoughts was when I was in school, one of my classmates made this table where the legs are slightly canted in. Now, always on a table, the legs are slightly canted out, or they have a visual taper to make it feel like it has a wider stance because it feels sturdy. And the second you kick those legs in, now it feels like it's going to tip over.
Right.
And Paul, to your point, like you might be able to sell that one table, but if you were to make a line of tables, nobody's going to buy a lot. You're not going to sell 100 of those tables because it just feels we're so used to it being one way that it's upsetting to see it another way.
Yeah. So what the artist might conceptualize as a possibility doesn't mean it's going to be accepted by the audience at large, because there's a certain amount of functional expectation, right? The table won't tip over. The guitar will resonate well and project. And by trying all these crazy ideas, the guitar lost its resonance, but it looks cool as fuck, but it doesn't sound good to play live. Or the table tips over when I lean my fat belly against it. So no, Eric, what you're talking about is the tension between like following what works versus really trying to push into new ground, but there's huge risk associated with it.
Yeah, and I think you can push into new ground. Like you can only take one step at a time. I think the danger of going too far off the deep end is you're trying to like long jump down the road or onto different tracks instead of just walking at a pace that's comfortable for you as a creative person and for your audience. And if Daisy were to come out tomorrow and make do an epoxy paper pour and make an entire guitar out of something like that, people would be like, are you okay? Emotionally, are you good?
Yeah, I would be having a very hard time if I ever do that. So,
I'll look for the signs. But
did you break your ass by any chance?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so maybe we can sort of wrap up that discussion. I think there's definitely all the times I've tried to really buck convention, I've had a slower sale, but that's not to say it wasn't a valuable experiment, or that you can't find a way. I think there's people who have made brands based on bucking convention, but somehow they landed on something that was sustainable and almost as good as the more traditional thing. But I think that's few and far between. So I do think this conversation about creativity within limitations is great. I don't think we even covered it fully, to be honest. I think there's a lot more meat on this bone, but maybe we'll take that into a different...
We'll get Daisy back for a round 2 when her butt heals up.
When my butt heals up.
All right. So let's dive into a second seg here. Paul, Daisy, you guys both know that I'm super hip. I'm super cool. The kids know that I know all the slang, and so I think what we're gonna do for the second seg is Paul has acquired a list of slang terms from his teenage child. And what he's going to do, Daisy, is feed us those terms. And we have to see, if we can figure out what they are. But I want to do this. I want to bring some cultural relativity to it. I can interpret this as an American. I want you to interpret it as a Brit. And what would it mean if I was over in London and I hit him with whatever, the fucking Riz or whatever he's about to hit us with.
Which one?
I
do know what the Riz is.
Daisy goes first.
So is Riz the first one?
Yeah. So Daisy, I would describe Eric as the Rizzler. What am I saying about
Rizzler?
So I used this word the other day, not knowing what it meant, and I still don't know what it means, but I got laughed at. So I was seeing a friend for dinner and drinks, right? And my boyfriend Rob texted me being like, "What are you up to?" And I was like, "Oh, we're just on the Riz."
I don't even know what that means, dude.
We're on the Riz.
In my head, what I meant was we're having a nice time. We're catching up. We're rizzing, right? That's
what
we're rizzing.
We're rizzing. Yeah.
Oh, well, amazing.
I would describe Eric as the Rizzler. What am I saying about him?
Well, yeah, so I don't know.
You gotta guess.
Okay. He is a charming man.
Yes, charisma.
Oh,
Yeah.
We're on the Riz, man. We're on the Riz right now.
You guys are so on the Riz.
You know this is the clip we're promoting the show with.
That's
now, right?
amazing. Okay, I got another one. You ready? All right.
Yeah, go.
You're watching something and you're like, that is gat.
That's gat?
G-Y-A-T. Gat.
I thought gat was an ass. I thought somebody had a gat.
That's it.
Is that
it? It's a big butt. A gat.
Ooh.
Yeah, so Daisy, you broke your gat.
Yeah. Broke my fine gat.
I don't know if it's big or not, but you broke it. All right.
Gat.
Daisy, what does it mean if you call someone an NPC? Is that a compliment or an insult?
I think it sounds like a compliment.
Eric, is calling someone an NPC a compliment or an insult?
An NPC.
I'm gonna say it's an insult because NPC back when we were younger is a non-playable character. Look at that! Right. I pulled it out of my head.
Non-playable character.
You are down with the kids, Eric.
We are rizzing so hard right now.
We are on the Riz, guys. We are on the Riz.
All right. All right.
Okay.
So yeah,
that just means that means
an
they're
insult.
useless. Yeah.
Yeah, it means someone's like
Yeah.
not notable. Yeah, you're
So not
you're
a main
just part of the
character.
paper.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
That is so chuggy.
What?
Chuggy.
How do you spell that?
Cheugy. Chuggy. That's chuggy.
That's well. I feel like you're giving it context with the way that you're saying it there.
I
That's
am.
chuggy. I mean, it can't be. I don't know what the hell it means.
Does
That's
it mean, you know,
gross?
chew? Is it like, you know, when you chew the fat, you're like mulling something over? Do we think that it means that?
I think you're putting the word chew into chuggy.
That's correct. Yes, that is what I'm doing. I can't clutch at many straws with this one. But
It means not trendy.
my...
It means
Not
not
trendy.
trendy
Well,
or
you know
cringe.
what? Thinking
It's cringe.
is
It's
not
like-
trendy. Cringe is...
Think
Thinking is cringe. If you're chewing the fat and you're standing there on your own, just chewing the fat with yourself or with...
Chuggy.
You know, it's cringe.
Hold on, is that chewing the fat is a euphemism for thinking?
Oh, well, no, chewing the fat is like mulling stuff over or like chatting with people,
When
right?
you said that, I literally
Yeah.
assumed you were like eating eating the fat off of like
You
a
know what?
steak.
No.
Did you not know that expression?
I mean, I don't think so.
Oh, well, there you go. Yes, it is not, in
All
fact,
right, I
eating
got-
meat.
I got two more. You ready?
Okay, hit us.
Okay, go.
She's chopped.
Is that like when people
fucking
say,
nothing.
like, she's cooked? Like, she's mad? You know, she's chopped.
She's chopped.
Like, she's-
okay,
There's,
I'm,
she's
another
hectic.
version. There's another
Okay.
version.
I'm gonna take the opposite stance. I'm gonna say chopped is like that's a dope fucking haircut. Like
Alright.
she got that fucking chop on. You know?
Here's another. So you can substitute for chopped. You can say she's clapped.
Oh, she's ugly.
Yes, ugly.
Ugly.
Yes,
Okay.
she's clapped.
When you said clapped, I thought that meant like clapping them booty cheeks. She got that gat.
God, you haven't seen Sarah in a while. Your mind's in filthy places.
Daisy, yes. Yes, Daisy, yes. Okay. Last but not
Oh,
least,
dear.
she's chuz. That's chuz.
That's chuz, or she's,
Chuz.
Can one can be chuz, or a thing is chuz.
One can be a chuz.
One can be chuz.
Yeah,
Is it
she's
like when
chuz.
people, like really posh people on like Maine and Chelsea say cheers, they're like, chaz. Is that not what it means? Like,
Chuz.
you walk
Okay.
around West London, that's all you hear.
Chuz.
This is amazing.
I'm
That's
gonna say, what is it? Chuz.
chuz. She's chuz.
She's chuz. I'm gonna say that's. We used to say she thick, but I'm gonna say she chuz. Man.
No.
Has
All right.
chuz
Chuz with
to
two
chuz?
Z's.
So chuz is actually the concatenation or the coming together of two other slang words. So chuz is like chopped huz. Okay. So we already covered
what
chopped
huz
means
is.
ugly. Chopped
Okay.
means ugly, right? And huz is like slang for hose.
So it's
Yeah, ugly
large,
It's like ugly
large and
hose,
promiscuous.
chuz, chopped huz, or chuz. That's amazing.
Kids these
Oh
days are
my God.
savage. Like, that is-
Honestly,
hectic.
Dude.
the only thing we had slang. I mean, we used more traditional slang that was not appropriate to use these days. But still,
No.
like most of our slang was like, "That's the bomb," you know, like it was positive shit.
Fucking chopped hose, dude. I love it.
so bad.
If I say that to my daughter, like we'll be like someone whisper into my breath, I'll be like, "Dude, that's chuz." And she
Yo, that's
laughs her fucking ass off.
chuz.
That
Next
is so
time,
funny.
next time I see her, I'm just gonna walk in the house and be like,
That's
"That
chuz.
outfit, fucking chuz, dog. What is you doing?"
All right,
Oh my
Daisy, do you
God.
have some Brit ones for us?
Oh yeah. So, what do you think a Bishy Barnaby is?
What the
What?
fuck? That's a baked good of some kind. A fucking
What?
Bishy Barnaby. That's just like, that's like a peep. Like it's a marshmallow candy.
It sounds like a drink you would drink with your pinky out.
You say Chaz.
When you say Charles,
A Bishy Barnaby.
a Bishy Barnaby. Oh, gone Russian now. No, so a Bishy Barnaby is a ladybird.
What the fuck is a ladybird?
What do you mean? What is a ladybird? What?
Like-
A bird?
Like
A
a bird?
ladybug.
That's a oh, a ladybug.
Yeah, but we call it a ladybird, so that's 2 in 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah, ladybird.
Oh,
But in
Interesting.
Norfolk, so this is a very strict regional one. So in Norfolk, where I'm from, it's a very Norfolk regional thing to call it a Bishy Barnaby.
Bishy Barnaby.
a ladybird.
I'm gonna use that all the
ladybird.
Oh my
fucking
God.
time now.
I would
Yeah,
have never
I mean,
guessed
it's
that in a
very
million years.
yeah. Okay, I've got some more, so I'm gonna look at my little list. All right, guess who I asked for this?
Say again?
Gue- Guess who I asked for help with this challenge?
Oh, your mom? I don't know.
No, ChatGPT.
Oh, of course
Oh God, Daisy, come on.
So, I mean, actually, I don't know how good it was because I don't think that these are strictly British, but apparently they are. So it's come up with gubbins.
Gubbins.
Gubbins?
Do you not have that word?
Gubbins is something that that's like a shitty governor. You know, like what's up? This
Gubbins.
fucking Gubbins. Let's get this fucking Gubbins out of office.
Gubbins.
Do you guys not have that word? That's so funny. I'm
Nope,
so sheltered.
never heard that.
Gubbins sounds like a bakery treat at like something.
Why is-
No, that's a
All
Bishy Barnaby,
bakery.
man.
No, that's like iced gubbins. Like I'll take the iced gubbins. Like just
Oh,
warm
okay.
it up.
Iced Gubbins?
Would you like
Hell
it warm?
yes.
Like would
That's
you like
got-
it warmed with your
That's
latte?
got like a fruity middle in there. You
There
know
you
what
go.
I mean? Like an iced Gubbins.
I'll
Hell
take
yeah.
a
Guys,
peach
no.
gubbins. Yeah.
No, because when you know what it means, though, it's going to ick you out.
Okay, go.
Gubbins is basically like useless or dirty stuff. You know, it's like little gubbins that you have. Like, it's used in a car a lot. Like, I've got loads of gubbins in my car, just like loads of little bits like in the dashboard and that kind of thing. So the idea
in
of putting
fairness,
icing on that is
I was
not
gonna
nice.
say, in fairness, those Gubbins could very well be iced. Like they've got some sticky shit on them.
Eric's
So
got gubbins in his
grim.
pants. Okay, next.
One of my personal favorites is Wazuk.
Was
Do you
it?
know what
I was gonna say that's a '90s slang term for sure.
Wazuk is like an insult, but it is very, I guess, very 90s. It's like, oh, you're such a Wazuk.
He's such a wazzock.
He's a
Such a
Wazik
wazzock.
Chuz.
Whoa, that's really weird. My iTunes just started playing in my ear. Anyway, it's gone now.
Such a wazzock move.
Such a funny Wazuk.
What does it mean?
Wazuk is just it's just like an idiot. Like, you're such a Wazuk. Like, you just
Fucking wazzock
Wazuk
over here.
behavior. What else is there?
All right, give me one more.
Do you know? Apparently, it says you don't have hair of the dog as an expression.
Oh, we have hair of the dog.
Hair of the
Yeah.
dog.
Little drink
It's-
drink the next morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lies. So yeah, I guess that's kind of.
Well,
I think
I'm
that's
glad you
probably
had
it.
one derogatory one because all of mine were for some reason.
Yeah, you were
pretty
you
much
were on the hate.
derogatory.
I really do like Bishy Barnaby though. That's strong, man.
It's
That's a good, that
cute,
feels like
isn't it?
like a kids band, like the Wuggles, the Wiggles.
The
What were
Wiggles,
they?
yeah.
The Wiggles,
Wiggles.
the Bishy Barnabys. That's a thing.
Bishy Barnabies. That's why she's so cute.
Oh, all right. So we got to do a momentary ad read for our friend, our hero, our Lord and Savior, Bill Burkle at WCB Woodworking. William Teresa Burkle.
Tomato.
Tomato Burkle.
We covered this.
So he is, once again, I said on the, I believe it was the last step, that I'll be there on March 29th at 10 a.m. doing a shaper demo. So those of you who are nearby Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania, you can come out and join me. I will be there teaching folks how to use the Origin and absolutely making just asinine jokes and wasting everybody's time. But that's part of the joy of it. So another thing that Bill is doing this month is giving a micro jig bundle away. So that's going to be a $1,200 total bundle that you can find on his website as part of the giveaway, as part of the sign up. And he's starting to carry some new products too. He's bringing in Craig's full line, Whiteside's full line, and Whiteside, I use their router bits all the time. They're phenomenal. And ten Ryu saw
Tenryu,
blades.
yeah.
I don't know them.
I think
Um,
it's Japanese, yeah?
I doesn't
I don't
sound
know.
Japanese
I don't
at
remember.
all.
No,
Yeah,
but I recall.
it's-
no, I recall like talking about them at one point, and the people who tried them said they were excellent.
Okay. And Daisy, I have a brief question for you. So Bill is trying to get some hand tools in the shop as well. So he is wondering if you were to say, like, here are the 5 basic hand tools that I think somebody needs to start woodworking, what would you recommend?
Plane, chisel, square, saw, like a little gent saw or a dovetail saw.
Little
And
gents.
then, do you know, is that not what it's
No,
called?
I actually, nobody uses a gent saw over here, and I love them. So I love that you just said a gent saw.
Cute. Yeah, and then probably like a calipers or something. Depends what you're doing.
Interesting. Okay.
Calipers?
All
Maybe.
right.
That's a deep
Calipers.
cut.
That's a luthier move right there.
That's a deep
I
cut.
think it
right
is,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just
Girl
trying to
got
think what I
Riz.
use
Man.
most in my job. Oh, God, Riz.
Amazing.
On the Riz.
She on that
yeah.
Riz.
I think that's
Well,
probably what I'd say.
Friend, fucking delight having you on today. Thank you so much for jumping
Thank you,
on.
guys.
And in the after show, I want to hear about why you chose to move down under. I got to get that story out of you.
Oh yeah. It's not because of a boy, just to put you right there.
I'll
I'll explain.
I
don't
think
believe
it
you.
is. I
Let's
don't
dive
believe
into
her
it.
either.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.